recording any second here. All right. So my name is Nora Trinacosta, and I am the sales director for Text Help, coming to you from my home office in California. And I'm excited that you guys have brought some Read and Write in for your students, your special ed students. And you'll be able to, those of you that are following along on a video, you'll be able to follow along on these slides and any of the activities that we do. You can pause the video and go along with those slides. So you guys have just purchased 150 seats of Read and Write. I see that you've got 6 seats assigned so far, so I'm pretty sure anybody here is going to be able to get this for students on their caseload up to that 150 mark. You'll want to talk to Chellce King to get your students included in that. How many of you guys got a chance to download the tools before our session? Can I get a quick show of hands? Okay, so some of you, okay, awesome. Perfect. So we will get hands-on with the tools today. I want you guys to be able to kind of manipulate them and ask me questions as we go. And then anybody who's watching this will be able to follow along. We were talking prior to the start of our session today about using the Text Help PDF reader, and it sounds like we need to work with your IT to make sure that we get that allowed for your students. So we'll do that. In addition to that, I want to make sure that you guys have access to all the different parts of Read and Write. So we'll go over those downloads for you today as well. Anyone, anywhere can download a 30-day trial of Read and Write, and they'll have a little counter in the top. It'll say you have, 29 days, 28 days, 27 days. If you do that and you don't do something to get a premium license, I'm just going to hit the play button here so you can see what it looks like. If you let your license run out, you're going to have that grayed out toolbar. So that's how you're going to know that you need to make sure you register for free for teachers. So here on slide 4, I've got the links to download the Read and Write extension, to set up the Text Help PDF reader, and to register for free teacher access. So the good news is you've got 150 seats for students. You, as case managers and teachers, your licenses don't count towards that. You're going to download a 30-day trial. You're going to register with us for free teacher access, and then all 150 of those seats are dedicated for students. So I understand you guys are using Google Classroom, or at least your teachers are. Do you guys use Google Classroom at all as like case managers, or is it pretty much just a teacher thing? Pretty much teacher thing? Okay.
I would say for OTs, I don't know any of us who are using it, but I did invite our resource room teachers from my building to come. So that would be Adine, Laurel, and then the paras. And you guys use Google Classroom, correct?
Okay.
Laurel, you're muted.
It sounds like there's a mix.
Laurel, you're still muted.
Oh.
Sorry. Our students have access to their, we have access to their Google Classroom.
Awesome.
So we can go in and put in assignments and all of that. We don't have our own separate one.
Got it. So what I'm going to show you guys today is how to integrate the PDF files with Google Classroom. You're going to use the web toolbar for everything else in Google Classroom, but like with PDF files, you're going to need to integrate that. Super easy, not a big thing. Just want to make sure that you guys know about it. So when the students like annotate it, other people can see the annotations. Just need to make sure that that works. So we'll get a chance to kind of explore that too. So before we dig in, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background. So you've got a license for Read and Write, and I wanted to make sure you knew we're going to focus today on Read and Write for Google Chrome. And that includes the Read and Write license includes all the different kinds. We're going to focus on Read and Write for Google Chrome extension, which works exactly the same on a Mac PC or Chromebook. I have special ed kids in my family that would have just like the worst day ever if the button on my screen was red and the button on their screen was blue. There's no teacher version versus student version. Everybody's got the same thing, looks exactly the same on Mac, PC, or Chromebook. So you can feel, those of you that are still working remotely, you can feel deep in your heart of hearts that if you're telling the kids it's a green arrow at the top of the screen, yes, it's a green arrow at the top of the screen. So looks exactly the same. We're going to focus on that. I wanted to make sure though that you knew you also have access to all these other forms of read and write. Read and write for iPad is significantly different because iOS is different, right? But if you've got kids that only work on an iPad, you do have support for them over there. There's also a read and write for Windows that's locally installed on the Windows machine, the PC, and a read and write for Mac that's installed. Those, if you're working with low incidence kiddos that just like Chromebooks don't do it for them, you can use those. That's fine. Question?
For students who use both a Chromebook and an iPad, is it one license or would they have to get another license for that?
No, it's
iPad?
one license. Yeah, it's
Okay,
one license.
cool. Thanks.
So they push the license out to your students. They probably pushed out the other piece. I'll make sure that you guys get a link to the iPad stuff. But basically, they'll just go and download the iPad. And at the beginning, it's going to ask them, do you have a Google account or a Microsoft account or whatever account you want to connect it with? As long as they connect it with their school account, they're already all set. As long as they're added to the group that Chelsea's managing, they could be any device, and they just have to like make sure that they connect it up with who they are at school. So I also wanted you guys to know about the Mac and the Windows version because those come with very robust scanning software built in. So both the Read and Write for Mac and the Read and Write for Windows have Abby Fine Reader built into them. So if you have paper stuff that you need to scan, or you have a teacher that's trying to do like a whole unit out of a textbook, that's a great way to get that stuff scanned and like really nicely formatted. If you guys decide you want to go down that road with me, we can definitely like set up another meeting to explore that. But I wanted you guys to know all this stuff is here. We're going to focus today on the extension. And this link right here might be something good to share with teachers or families or students just to make sure that you have everything. It sounds like you're having trouble getting access to the PDF reader, so we'll work with your IT on that. These things right here are links to exactly how to get those, but I thought it would be nice to have this in one place. So when you're looking at your own computer or you're looking at your student's Chromebook, whatever it might be, you want to double check and make sure they have all three of these icons. So the little purple puzzle piece here means that you have the Read and Write for Google Chrome extension. And that's what works in G Suite. It works in slides, it works in docs, it works in forms, and it works on websites in the Chrome browser. This guy right here, this PDF reader, is what works on PDFs. And then this little guy that kind of looks like a cartoon character, that little purple text helper up there, is the screenshot reader. I think you guys have had Snap and Read before. The Snap part, that's the screenshot reader, this little cartoon character guy. It's the little box that you drag around and, you scan some inaccessible content on the page and have it read out loud. Okay. So this is a great way to just double check that you have everything. I think, were you guys able to get access to the PDF reader as teachers, or is it just the students that are having it blocked?
I can speak for me. I haven't had any troubles with downloading for teachers.
Okay. Right.
But when we do the students, it's when you go to the like extension store, it says blocked by admin.
Okay, got it. So we'll make sure we get that like opened up for you guys. No problem. Before we get into the tools, I'll make this a little bigger so you can see what we're talking about. I wanted to just kind of lay a little bit of the background. So of course we want to talk about access to content. We want to talk about compliance with with federal laws. We want to make sure you're offering appropriate accommodations on IEPs. All of that is super important. But I also want you guys to think about Read and Write in another way, which is how can we help students practice standards, master those standards with as much support as possible. And the way to do that with Read and Write is these colored highlighters. So you want to get to that higher order thinking. You want to get those kids to like really express what they're doing and connect all the dots in their own mind, no matter what their learning style is. This is the way to do it. These like colored highlighters. So you can see here, we've identified the main ideas in pink and the details in green. And then we pull those out into a separate document. Since we're using the Read and Write for Google Chrome extension, we're going to pull that out into a Google Doc. If you were a Microsoft district and you were using our Microsoft tool, it would go into a Word doc. But you're going to get a Google Doc. And you don't want to stop there. There's lots of things you can do with this. Some teachers would see something like this and think, yay, this kid is ready to write a summary, right? And that's great. but there's other ways you can use this. So I have a student in my family she's in college now, but she has some pretty significant learning disabilities, and she was in a very rigorous international baccalaureate high school program. And one of her issues is that she has extremely limited working memory. So a lot of teachers like that turn and talk to your partner strategy, right? Well, the minute she turned her head, whatever she was doing before, it's gone. It's just completely not on her slate. So when she was doing these like group projects and small group instruction, they would read a text in class, and then they would like just not even get up, but just like turn and talk to the other kids, and she wouldn't be able to contribute. But when she started using Read and Write, she was able to pull out what was meaningful for her from that text and like ground herself. Okay, this is my notes, what I think about this text. And she started being able to contribute like in the moment in those like small group discussions. Before that, they would have like a shared Google Doc, and 10 o'clock at night, she would add her brilliant idea to it, and the other kids would be like, huh, that quiet kid said something, really? So that could be really huge for your kids. Likewise, if you have English learners, maybe they're not super confident, or kids that have, speech issues, they might not be super confident, like raising their hand and speaking in class. Having their version of what they took from the text, like right there, can be a huge asset to them. So think about that as you're thinking about how to use the tools. There's a lot going on here. It's a little overwhelming when you look at each one of these different toolbars, right? But you'll notice things in common. Every one of the toolbars has a play button. Once you know how to use the play button on Google Docs, then you know how to use it on the web, and you know how to use it on a PDF, and you know how to use it on slides, and so on. So it looks like a lot, but whatever skills that your students get, it's going to carry on to all the different formats. It's not going to be that different. So just to kind of reiterate, we have a Google extension that works in docs, slides, PDFs, EPUBs. Are you guys using EPUBs at all? Anybody using EPUBs with students? Okay, any of you Bookshare users, your ears should perk up when I say EPUBs, because I'm going to show you how to get EPUBs from Bookshare, okay? And they're awesome. So imagine all the cool things you could do with a PDF that you'd be able to do with our nice voices and all the cool tools for your students that use Bookshare. And then, of course, websites in the Chrome browser. So that's going to be things that happen in classroom. That's going to be, online textbooks, that kind of thing. So I am now on slide 11. It looks like most of you are here with me. And what I've got here, if you look at this link on here and you click on it, if you click on this link here, you are going to get, instead of a preview, come on, Nora, you are going to get a template. So you can see what you're going to get. And if you click on the template, it's going to make a new Google Doc in your Google Drive. And I set up this link so that if you wanted to share this with students, it's already in that template format. And then when you click on it, you should get your own version of this document that's just yours. And if you've already used the Read and Write extension, it'll appear at the top like mine did. But if you haven't used it yet, you just downloaded it, you're probably going to have a little kind of a caret with the Read and Write symbol on it. And when you click on it, you should get a pop-up screen that asks for some permissions. Make sure you accept those permissions, and then you may have to bring it down again. It may automatically open. So I'll give you guys a second to kind of play with that. If you really, really, really don't want to see Read and Write at all, and you click the web toolbar tool, it'll disappear completely. And then if you click it again, you'll get that little caret and you're able to bring it down. And I bring this up because it wouldn't be unusual to work with a student that's, how sometimes kids are just like click, 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 click. If they're clicking 3 times or 5 times or 7 times, they're turning it off, right? So just kind of keep in mind, if you've got kids that are going, I can't see the toolbar, it won't come up. It's like, click and wait and see what happens. It wouldn't be the first time I saw a kid do that. So how are you guys doing? Does everybody have the document and the toolbar like I do? Awesome. Okay, let's follow along. And if any of you are kind of like, oh my gosh, this is a lot, don't forget, you're going to get a recording. You can go back and follow along again if you want to. So we're going to just walk through the toolbar. And this is an amazing document that walks you through the entire Google Docs toolbar, which is the biggest one. It was actually written by a really wonderful AT professional in Wisconsin. If I ever meet her, she's getting a beer and a hug because she did the best job I've seen of explaining how to use the highlighters. So like everything that I share with you today, it's open source. It's yours to do what you want with. If you are training a student on 2 items on this toolbar, go ahead and take the template and remove everything except the instructions for those 2 items. And you've got your kind of getting started practice with that student. But we're going to work our way across the toolbar. So let's look at this one. This is play, pause, and stop. So this is the text to speech. I'll warn you guys in advance, I'm having some internet problems, so you won't hear my speech, but you'll be able to explore the text to speech functions on your own toolbar. So I'm not too worried about it. So it's the good old play button up here. So I'm just going to click right here in this text and I press the play button. And it's reading out loud right now. And I'm going to pause while it's saying the word any. Any is lit up in blue and the rest of the sentence is lit up in yellow. There's a lot of research behind that dual highlighting. We've over like a more than 10-year period, they've learned that students who have access to that coordinated audiovisual support, your average student that has that support will read and comprehend 2 levels higher than their normal level, but the average for students with disabilities is 5 levels. So if you're working with a kid who's got a 3rd grade reading level, but they're in 9th grade, you're going to get pretty close to them being able to understand the 9th grade text. Okay. So keep that in mind. I'm going to show you guys. I've also learned that sometimes these days you actually have to tell kids what a pause button is. I'm old enough to know what a VCR and a cassette tape are, but we don't really use pause that much anymore. Most kids, they take in information on streaming services. They probably don't hit the pause button. They just open a tab, and when they want to stop, they close the tab, or they just let it play and go back to it. They don't always use the pause button. So it's kind of good to remind students about the pause button. Another thing to think about with the pause button is if you have textbooks that have human readers, the publishers generally hire the human reader to read a whole page at a time. They don't say, read a paragraph and stop, read a paragraph and stop, read a paragraph and stop. So not as big of a deal if it's like lower elementary, but yes, yeah, that's true. They do have a pause button on YouTube. But think about like those textbooks. Like if you're reading your like high school biology textbook and you're cruising along and the human reader's reading, and you get to like the next, almost to the bottom of the page, and you have to look a word up in the dictionary, there's no pause button. Guess what? You stop it, you look up the word in the dictionary, and then you have to start all over again at the beginning of the page, blah, 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 till you get to the part that you want. So sometimes kids may not know about the pause button. So just make sure you make it explicit, especially for your older kids. I wanted to go back a little bit and talk about speech. So the little 3 meatballs over here on the side will take you to options. And as you might guess with AT, this product is deeply customizable. So I have all kinds of different voices here. I will point out to you we're an international company, so you're going to see a lot of voices, and the US is not at the top. So you want to go to US if you want the American English. I like Ava the best. I could choose, different voices here and try it. And then I wanted to point out to you, there's all these different international voices. So if I was to pick Czech Zuzana and turn that voice on and have it read English, it's not going to take the English in my document and turn it into Czech. If I was reading a document that was written in Czech, she's going to read it with Czech phonetics and pronunciation, and it's going to be awesome. But if I have her read an English doc, it's going to sound pretty weird. It might not make a whole lot of sense. Same thing, probably the number 1 voice that gets used is Mexican Spanish Paulina. She sounds like a West Coast Spanish speaker. If you put her on an English doc, she, like for the word voice, she's going to say voice. And likewise, if you were to put Ava down here onto a Spanish doc, she's going to say, donde está la something. So just keep in mind that those are phonetic only. They're not translating or changing. Read and Write does work in multiple languages. Do you guys have any dual language programs at all, or is all the instruction going on in English? Not so sure. Certainly for like,
Yeah, it's all English services, but we do have ELL teachers working with our second language students.
Okay. And likewise, you might be supporting a secondary student that is in like world languages. They might be doing Spanish or French or something. They can get like full language support for these languages. So English, Spanish, French, Dutch, Portuguese, and everybody wonders why we have Malaysian in there. People in Malaysia are super into Google. We got to deal with the government of Malaysia. They use the heck out of it. So that's why Malaysian's in there. But if I change this to Spanish, did you notice over here that this changed? So I changed my language, and then over here, I'm going to change my functions to Spanish. And then when I use word prediction, I'm going to get Spanish results. When I use spell check, I'm going to get Spanish spell check results, right? So it's going to change everything. So just keep in mind, there's that voice, and then there's the actual features. So they're two kind of different things. Probably won't come up a lot for you guys, but might come up a little bit. So any questions from you guys about text to speech? It's kind of like the low-hanging fruit. You guys are all probably pretty familiar with text to speech. So let's go ahead and start in with the other tools. And I wanted to point out something about using the toolbar. It doesn't matter that much on a Google Doc, but we want students to have the same experience wherever they're using the toolbar. If you were on a website and you pressed a button first and then go down to the website, it's not going to really know what to do, right? So you have to select whatever is on the page and then press the button, so that you have the same experience no matter where you're using the tool. So I chose solar and I opened up the dictionary, and my dictionary is over here, and I can, listen to that read out loud. I can hear all of that. And now this dictionary is open. Like we're talking about that kid with the biology textbook. I can go all the way down here and grab something and just have that. I can drag this any place that I want and just have it kind of waiting for me when I want to use it. So in her direction, she's asking you to choose some different words. You can scroll over your text, but if you want to select an individual word, you can also just double click in the middle of the word. So the instructions, she's asking you to take the definition and cut and paste it in the box. So we'll say what an astronaut is. And then we're going to turn on our picture dictionary. And you guys will like this. These images come from a company called Widgets. So they might look really familiar if anybody's using curriculum that has those in it. You might have seen that stuff. So here's my little astronaut. The cool thing with the visual images is I can actually just drag them into the document and then move over here to flag, and I can drag flag into the document. So kind of cool. This is definitely like a really powerful tool, but I don't want you guys to think this is not a full augmentative communication program. But I know that there's kids that sometimes they just fall in the middle. They just need a little extra visual support. One thing that I've seen people doing a lot in like these distance and hybrid times is kids need all the support for executive function that they can get, and like visual schedules or visual directions can be huge. So look what you can do with the picture dictionary. You could say 8 o'clock, you wake up to your alarm, and then 8:15, brush your teeth, and then 8:30, you take a shower, and then 9 o'clock, you eat breakfast. Now look what happens if I highlight breakfast and I get my little breakfast picture, blah, blah, blah. I can like drag that in there. I want to drag to the right place, but you could actually make like a nice little kind of like visual instructions or visual schedule. So that's kind of a nifty little thing you can do with the pictures. So any questions about the dictionary and the picture dictionary?
More just a comment that my students love the picture dictionary. So I would say many of them didn't necessarily need to use it, but it was great for buy-in. They thought it was really fun.
Yeah, awesome. And just keep in mind that these are like very general pictures. They're designed to be developmentally appropriate for pre-K into adult. I have had college nursing students find out that they could look up all of their like complicated anatomy terms in the picture dictionary and cry. So you can do like really heavy duty stuff with the picture dictionary, or you could just do like very simple stuff like we've been doing here. Probably not as much of an issue like post-COVID. I think most people have got the internet thing sorted out. But Audio Maker is sort of cool. It works on Google Docs. It also works on websites. You can select any text that you have and click that button, and you'll see a little progress bar. It's making me an MP3 file of the text that I just selected. And I can save it any place I like. I don't know how well you guys are going to hear this. When we get real close to the computer, see if you can hear it. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but it's in the same voice and speed. So be thinking about how you might use that audio maker. Yes, if you have kids that have limited access, then that's a great way to give them something. You could save it to a Google folder that they can access offline. You could save it to a folder that syncs with iTunes so they could listen to stuff on their phone. And one place that this is kind of like cool to use is not just if you have students that really like audiobooks, but sometimes it's really powerful for students, especially students that use a lot of audiobooks. Uh, it can be very powerful for them to do this with their own writing. So if they have to write an essay and they take their own essay and they turn their essay into an audio file, now they're published the way that they consider like reading. My husband and his whole family are all, he's on the spectrum and various forms of like learning disabilities, and they love audiobooks. And when we go on family trips, the joke is like, I'm not an auditory learner. I don't learn that way at all. We'll go on a family trip, we'll be in the car, and we'll be listening to some like novel, and everybody's super into it. And we stop from lunch and everybody goes, "Oh my gosh, it was so sad when the dog dies." And I'm like, "Dog? There's a dog in the story?" Like, that's not how I think. But I think for them, their native reading language is kind of audiobook. It's not mine for sure. It's like foreign language to me. But so for some people, it's super powerful to take their own writing and put it in that format. So that's the audio maker. And I had to have this icon explained to me. That's supposed to be like a piece of paper wearing headphones. The next one on there is your web search. And this is another one that's really cool for supporting executive function. It's kind of leading students into some like light resource skills. So you can select anything on the page and then just click that web search button, and it's going to do a one-click Google search of whatever you're looking for. And I have been using this practice doc since just before COVID started. And I have to tell you, I've watched what movies people are watching change dramatically. For a while there, it got really dark. I mean, you see a little bit. We got Batman. We got some kind of dark stuff, but for a while it was all really dark. Seems like we're getting a little bit better. We've got Totoro and starting to get a little bit more cheerful. Dirty Dancing was really big when people needed to feel good. So it's kind of interesting to do the same web search like regularly, but you can see how much your kids could infer from just like a simple basic web search. Is anybody already using any kind of screen masking for attention? I'm going to show you how to customize the screen mask. It's the icon that looks like a little TV set or something. So there's different ways that you can do this. So if you've got students that struggle with attention, they can just be looking at just that background color to be blue if we want. We can change the reading light color, the part that we're seeing through, to be yellow. There's also the ability here for you to choose any color you want. So, if you've got like real specific needs, like visual needs and stuff, you can go in here and pick exactly the color. If you know the number, drop in the number. Let's say I want that to be yellow. And then my opacity, if I make this opacity lower, you're going to be able to see through everything. And I have a fairly short reading height. So let's look at how it looks now. And I'm going to turn that back on. And you're going to see my little light blue and my dark yellow, right? But I can go in here and I can change this a lot of different ways. So if I wanted this to be maybe more like that kind of like reading ruler, let's make a really short reading light, right? And then let's make that a darker color. And you'll see now you've got kind of the reading ruler.
Uh-oh. Hopefully she'll be back with us soon.
Yeah, I noticed she accidentally left. Laura, Ladine, do you have any questions so far?
I was just thinking that one would be really cool for visually impaired kiddos because like a yellow background with red print is like the best contrast. So that would be cool to play around with that.
Yeah, our student CS, that's one of the main reasons one of the main functions I think of for him. He has such a hard time visually attending that. Has he had any buy-in or tried it yet?
Which student are we talking about? Initial?
Yes, and Read.
Oh, we were doing, yeah, well, sort of, because he tries to avoid everything.
Yeah.
But he was doing the speech to text.
Perfect.
I got him. So we did a paragraph and he told a little story. So that was about his cat. So
Awesome.
That was kind of fun.
Yay.
All right. You're trying different things. That sounds good. Not sure where I left out before I got kicked offline there, but you guys saw how to use the screen masking, okay? Awesome. Okay. So let's talk word prediction. You will notice that I have left my dictionary and my picture dictionary on, and they are very powerful when you're using word prediction. And I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that the way the word prediction works in Read and Write for Google Chrome is a little bit different from other programs. I think some of you had been using Co-Writer before. Historically, a lot of word prediction programs, they've had, word lists that you can access or you can upload a word list. We're doing something a little bit different. Rather than looking like word by word and like changing everything word by word and then going out to word lists, we're doing something a little bit different. We're looking at the words that are on the page in little chunks of 3. So I'm going to turn on the word prediction. You're going to see what happens. Let me bring this down here so you can see that. So you can see I've got a list of words. And again, sorry you can't hear it, but you should on your own be able to hear like these things as I, kind of go through. So if I want to enter this, I can just click on the entry. I can also, if I, better for me motor wise, I can do the control key and the number up top, or excuse me, the function key and the number up top to do, number 5. So let's see, there are. And so you'll see over here, I'm getting my dictionary definition and I'm also getting my picture dictionary, right? So now I am going to misspell white and you're going to see I'm going to do W-I-T. It's got with, within, and way down here. Oh, that's how you spell white, right? And I'm going to do clouds. And I've got cloud. But it's also saying out loud to me clouds, so I can hear that plural. And I'm going to misspell sky, S-K-I. Whoa, that's not what I meant. So I can go back. Yeah, okay, that's what I meant. So it's a little bit different. I jokingly tell people that I think elephant should be like the patron animal of assistive technology because everybody tries to type the word in elephant wrong and see what happens. You're not going to get a huge result with this program if you like type in like one individual gotcha word. But the more you put in there, the more it's going to notice not only what grade level you're writing at, the subject area, the kind of like, is it high or low register? The way that we're informing this stuff is we're looking at what word is on the page. I haven't put anything yet. So everything that you see in my list is capitalized and they're all good words to start a sentence with, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pick something here. And then it's going to make some suggestions for me that make sense. Those all make sense. I'm going to do something kind of naughty. I'm going to trick the computer into thinking I'm a college student. And I'm going to put in a big old $5 word here. So I'm going to say ramifications. Now, this computer thinks I'm a college student. Can you see how like the word choice changed a whole lot from like, there are clouds, I like pizza, today is Monday. And now when I start making Suggestions. These are like college suggestions, right? Move this over so you can keep seeing what I'm doing. I'm going to say Israel. Look at my options. So I don't need a subject dictionary. It can go from, I like cats to Syria and Palestine, and then back to, do you like pizza? So it's very tuned into where you're at. I found this is really good for kids on the spectrum who may write at a very low level. And then when you get them in their area of interest, they're like off to the races and you don't even know what half the words mean. It'll follow them right over there. You don't have to find the paleontology word list. Any questions about word prediction? Just give it a try and kind of play around with it. Yes, Heather.
You said, so this is something I found, to hit the like number 2 option, you have to hold down function and 2, you said? Okay, perfect. Because I have a student who motor-wise has a hard time clicking on it. So
okay. Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's helpful. Thank you.
You bet. I think I might even have like a little keystrokes doc that I can send you guys with like cheat sheet on keystrokes for you. Awesome. Okay, so you saw that. Sounds like you guys have already played with talk and type. So this is getting a little crowded. Let me get rid of some of the stuff. Talk and type is just what you think it is. You just press the button and talk. There's no training or anything. Asking me what I had for breakfast. I had masala rice and yogurt for breakfast. And it came out fine. So that's your speech input. And I think we also talked about like if you wanted to do speech input on a slide, I can't open up like a new speech bubble and start doing speech in there. The only place I can do it on slides, this is the hack, is you have to do it down here. I can add a slide this way. And then what you would do is you would cut and paste this into your active text bubble for docs. Another thing that's kind of interesting is when you're on websites, sometimes people tell me, oh, the word prediction and the speech input don't work. Watch for what website you're on. A lot of websites don't really care what you have to say. There's no box like this for you to tell them what you had for breakfast. So keep that in mind too. If you're ever not sure if those tools are working, on a website or something, you probably can't do this with your students, but for you, if you go to Amazon.com, Amazon wants to hear anything you want to tell them. So there's always going to be like some place for you to check out your speech input and your word prediction if you go over there. Probably same thing with YouTube. So check it. We integrated some of our different writing supports into one tool called Check It. And you can see this text right here that they want me to figure out. You can see that, Google has found some areas of concern and they might even make some suggestions for me, but they're okay. They're not really going to get everything. I'm going to select this whole little section and I'm going to press the check mark way over here on the left. And you probably noticed our color is purple. Read and Write is always purple. So now we're going to look at areas where we see issues with the purple. And I know there's programs out there that, you press a button and it automatically fixes your writing. We're an educational company. We want students to learn. We want them to develop habits and express what they want to say, not what the most common word is, right? So we're giving them a choice. So did they mean this is, these these aren't? What do they mean? If they meant this is, they can choose that and it'll go right into the document. And you'll see the kinds of suggestions that we make, like when you use, especially Microsoft, but also Google, they were designed for adults and in office. So when they're thinking about a misspelling, they're thinking about, oh, my hand slipped and used the key next to it on the keyboard. They're not thinking about, like bigger processing stuff. And one thing that we know is a lot of students with learning disabilities, part of the issue is auditory discrimination. So even though some people may not confuse that, we know that for a lot of kids, school and scroll and skill sound really a lot alike. So they may actually not have meant to say school. They might have meant to say skill. So that might not be the most common misspelling to come up, but they've got a chance in there to find it. So this is looking at spelling. It's looking at grammar. You saw how we did the subject-verb agreement, and it's looking at punctuation. So here, did we mean does, does, we meant does, and then here, announcements. Now here's where it gets interesting. I don't think there's a thing in here, but this is iterative. So if I changed the verb, then it's going to go back and make sure that I change the subject of the verb and the congregation to be the same. So it's iterative. I change something and it changes something farther back in the document, that's going to light up purple again and ask me to review that. And we're pretty firm about having this be an on-demand thing. I don't know about you guys, but there's kids in my family that, like, when it's time to turn the paper in, they just do whatever they have to do to make all the little red lines go away, and then it's ready to turn in. That's not good. We want them to, like, think about, is this what I know? Is this what I'm trying to say? Can I turn it in now, right? So this kind of puts the ball back in their court. Any questions about using the check it feature? Okay. We're getting there. These are the highlighters. I think they're the most exciting thing on the toolbar. Hopefully you guys will feel the same. She's done a really cool thing with explaining how to use the highlighters. And I'll remind you guys, you always want to touch on the screen and then touch the icon. You can't touch the color crayon and then touch what's on the page. So she's kind of playing with your neural pathways a little bit here. So she's asking us to look for plants and highlight those in green. So dog, maple's a plant. So I'm going to take that and turn it green. Animals are blue. I got a blue dog. That's kind of weird. I guess she might be able to actually have a blue frog. Places are pink, so we're going to do Hawaii and Alaska and Georgia, and those are pink. And then colors are yellow, and yellow is yellow. Ooh, but green is also yellow. What's up with that? And there's two things that we can do here. One is we can collect up the highlights with this little button that looks like a recycling symbol. We've got two choices. Today, we're going to collect them by color, but we could also collect them by position, so it's in the order that they appear. And if you only wanted to pull the blue ones, you can uncheck everything else, but I'm going to get everything. It's going to go make me a new Google Doc in my Google Drive. The doc's going to be titled Highlights, so keep that in mind for your students in terms of organization. It's a good idea to call them something different, right? So I'll call them Marysville. Well, there we go. Marysville Highlights. Right, so I can find them, and you can see everything was separated by category, and it's a real Google Doc. I can do whatever I want with it. I've got everything separated out just the way I want, and then down here is a link back to the original document. So I got that by coloring and then hitting that collect highlights button. Anytime I don't like one of the highlights, I want to get rid of it, I can select that area and then hit that little sweet button. This guy right here is kind of the sexy tool on the toolbar. This is the one that everybody gets excited about. There's a ton you can do with it. This is the vocabulary tool. So I've selected each of these individual words, and I'm going to click this vocabulary tool. It's going to go again to the top level of my Google Drive. It's going to make me a new Google Doc. It's going to build a table. The table is going to have the word I selected, the meaning from the dictionary, the picture from the picture dictionary, and then a blank column for me to do whatever I want with. So again, good idea to name this thing. And here you can see my nice little list, right? So sky's the limit what you want to do with this. Depending on the students you're working with, you may want to create this for them as a way for them to, like, have an entry into the text and preview the vocabulary. This may be a study tool for some of your students. Some of your students may get to where they can do their own vocabulary list. Completely up to you, but I just wanted to show you guys this is a real Google Doc. So you can do anything that you would normally do with a Google Doc. So I could hit page setup and landscape it. I could add another column or two here if I wanted to. I could ask them, you know, like whatever they want to do with it. Like, do they think this is on the test? Do they already know this word? Whatever they want to do. So, you know, you could do in my words and have them write the word in a sentence. Whatever you want to do. And is anybody here like teaching deaf and hard of hearing students? I've got some teachers that actually have the deaf and hard of hearing students, they'll have them take this and the In My Words, they'll actually, I know there's a bunch of websites out there that have like sign language video. They'll actually add like the sign language video in here of In My Words. So now they've got the kind of bilingual for the written English and the ASL. It's kind of cool. So sky's the limit what you want to do with that. If you are supporting ELs, we've got some folks in Oregon that figured out this really cool thing. What if I take this whole document, I go to the Google Tools and Translate document, and I have a student who needs this in Bengali. I'm going to hit translate and I'm going to get my whole vocabulary list all done in Bengali. And it's a Google Doc. If I want to share it with their mom in Bengali, I can do that. So pretty cool. Any questions about the vocabulary list? It's the fun tool for sure. It's the one that gets people excited.
More just a comment. I hadn't thought of this when I learned the tool, but just thinking of like the resource room, when you guys do you give them like their sight words and then they build a sentence. That would be like a cool tool to use for that, like add in the column and then they could just speak the sentence and it's got all the definitions and stuff there. So that's kind of fun.
I mean, don't hesitate to go back to this, like, like lesson after lesson, right? So you could do, one column and then the next week you could add another column and examine that a different way if you wanted to. So it's a great way to kind of build on, existing work too. This is super popular, but it got really popular post-COVID. Voice note, telling me about your favorite food. Voice note is this little guy right here. It kind of looks like a speech bubble. And I'm going to click that. And let's see, my favorite food. My favorite food is artichokes. Always has been. I'm sure it was very funny to watch a little kid eating artichokes. And it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little rainbow progress bar here. It's taking that recording of mine, making an MP3, and what it's going to do is it's going to attach that MP3 to a Google comment over here. So we'll give it just a second to kind of finish up, and I'll be able to just press this. And again, not sure if you can hear it, but that is a voice note there. Now don't hit check or it's going to like go away again, but you can add those voice notes. And again, there's no student or teacher version here. Your students could leave you a voice note and ask you a question, or they could leave themselves a reminder, whatever they want to do. And it's right over there in the comments. So this could be just as easily something you could share with a family if you wanted to, add a little extra in there. Any questions about the voice note?
Okay, sorry. I just love this technology, so I'm just going to keep commenting. But Anna, speech therapist, the speech therapist at Marshall, we have a student we're co-treating on, and I just realized the voice notes would be great. I've been sharing the document when he does voice to text, and she'll comment, oh, this word might be tricky for him because he has a hard time with e's and oo's. And so when it doesn't dictate correctly, he could use the voice notes to practice doing it for her to hear. And I'm just really excited. I just got chills. I'm really excited about that.
That's a super cool way to use it. I love it. And likewise, we have like world language teachers that'll have kids do that for like pronunciation or asking a question, right? That's a great way to kind of like keep things in the native language if you want to. This last one is super fun. It's actually a preview of another product that we do called Fluency Tutor. You can set up a fluency practice for your students. So you can do this from things in a Google Doc. You can also do this from things on a website. So you're going to take this practice reading out loud. We're going to take that little bit there. We're going to press this little kid reading a book. It's going to open up a new window, and it's going to be like a little fluency practice. So it has some of the tools that you're used to using from Read&Write. So your kids can, press the button and practice listening to it, see what it sounds like, right? They can look words up in the dictionary, whatever, all of those different tools that you would normally do till they're ready to read it. And then when they're ready, I'm going to try and read this with some mistakes so there would be something to grade. I'm going to hit start recording. Once of the time far away lived a magical teacher named of Ms. Frost. She gave candy to all the students and let them take naps indeed doing the homework. Some days she did all of the homework for them. And then if they want to, they can listen to it and re-record it. And then when they're ready, they can send that to the teacher. All of this stuff integrates with Google Classroom. I am not going to send this to my coworker. He doesn't need to hear that bad reading. So you could, if you have a classroom, you're going to do that there too. I'm going to just close this out. If I didn't have Google Classroom, like if you wanted the students in your caseload to read it to you, it would just send you an email. So you can do it that way too. So any questions about the practice reading out loud? Awesome. All right, I'm going to take you guys over to the web real quick. You already know how to use all but 2 items on the web toolbar. So I'm going to go to a favorite website. Don't know if anybody's been over to Dogo News, but it's another website with like leveled news stories. So here is a leveled news story. We can look at it. If we want the Read and Write toolbar, then we're going to click that little purple puzzle piece, and we can have this below what we're reading, above what we're reading. We can kind of move it around a little bit. Pretty easy to read out loud, right? So we can select some text and press the play button, right? Or if we want to, there's also like a hover speech button. So I don't even have to touch. I just get the cursor over where I want to leave. I go down here and it's going to follow my cursor. It's really good if you have a website that has lots of call outs and hyperlinks, because it's hard for a lot of students to like grab that and press the play button. So they can just hover over that. So pretty easy. You saw the screenshot reader on Google Docs. You're going to hardly ever use it on Google Docs because Google does a pretty good job. But this website is generally good, but they almost always have something inaccessible over here. So you saw no problem for me to grab this content. But then when I go to do this, see how I get a little no symbol? So they've hired a graphic designer who's made them a cute little ad with a neat little picture and also turned the words into a picture. So the computer doesn't know if it's looking at a picture of a desk or a sack of potatoes or a camel or the ocean. We've got to tell the computer, hey, there's some words in there. I want to read the words. We're going to grab the words right there. It's going to OCR the words. Don't know if you can hear it. There's a play button here. There is a stop button and a play button. So you can have it read out loud as many times as you need. Kids who need to have stuff read out loud often need it more than once. So there's a replay button there if you need it. So you already know how to do everything else on the toolbar except for one thing, and that is simplify. So when I press that, it's going to take all of the main content off of that page, but we're not going to get any ads. We're not going to get anything flashy or blinky or any of that kind of stuff. And then we have like the whole thing here. And there's some cool stuff that we can do. If we turn this on, we got even more choices. Let's say we need like super high contrast. We can do super high contrast in Open Dyslexic or Lexend or whatever font we want. So we can kind of play around with the presentation if that's something that's easier for your students. And they still have like all the cool stuff that they want. And everything that I showed you, those highlighters, the vocabulary list, all of that stuff, it all totally works the same way as it did before. So any questions about the web toolbar? All right, now I'm going to take you to the funky part. We got just a little bit of time left. I want you guys to see what you can do in a PDF document. So there's different ways that you can share the PDF document. You can share a PDF with a student through Google Drive. So if that's how you share things with your students, you guys can both do that. I want you to keep in mind, though, that if your students are using the PDF reader to make annotations on Google Docs in Google Classroom, their teacher is going to need to download the Read and Write in Google Classroom to be able to see all of the different kinds of annotations that your kids do. I'll show you guys really quickly what the setting looks like, but there's a slide showing you guys exactly how to set it up. If I go here to my little puzzle piece and I go here to where it says options, there are 3 different choices down here: open web PDFs, enable classroom integration, open classroom PDFs directly. If I have these 2 things linked right here, open classroom PDFs and enable classroom integration, if I am a teacher and I have, sorry, I can't show you with Google Classroom because I don't have it either. But if I'm a teacher and I have that marked, it's going to have a turn it in button here for me to send to my student. If I'm a student and I have that marked, or sorry, they can have an assign button if they're a teacher. And if I'm a student, I'm going to have the turn it in button. And that's how the whole PDF flows back and forth for the student. So that's how you would see all those different things. It's going to be completely up to you guys whether you want to open web PDFs directly or not. If we want to go a little bit over, I can show you guys what that looks like. But before we go, I want you to see all the cool things you can do with a PDF. So here's my PDF. If I had a classroom, I'd have the little arrow in there. Of course, we can read it out loud and we can highlight and we can do all those awesome things. Kind of similar to what you had on the website. You've got a click to speak. So you can just move your cursor around anywhere and read out loud. Dictionary, picture dictionary. Your highlighters are a little bit different. But I wanted to show you all of the cool ways that you can annotate. So I'm going to start from the most basic level to the most kind of complex. So pushpin, press right here, and you'll see all the different ways I can enter information. I can use my talk and type, or I can use my word prediction. So I can say, this is a Friday, right? So that's maybe like a little reminder. It's not necessarily like exactly there. It's kind of like if you're not sure if they need scaffolding, maybe they need a little help, they can click on this. Oh yeah, it's due on Friday. You can get rid of this if you want to. The way I like to use this is for some extra scaffolding. So maybe you've been working with kids on compare and contrast for a while, but they're not sure this is time to use compare and contrast skills. I'm asking them to use the pink or red highlighter to highlight anything in here that's bad for birds, the green for anything that's good for birds. This is from a nonprofit about how pesticides travel up the food chain. So if they were following that, they could go through here and say, these are super, super bad for birds, right? So we're going to turn that off. We're going to turn on our highlighter and we're going to say those are pink. Those are bad, bad, bad. So that's how we would like use that kind of an annotation. So there's that guy. The other annotation that I think is the one that people are really looking for, this typewriter T. So again, you have the word prediction, but you also have speech input. So there must be an answer. And it goes right in there. I can make it smaller. I can make it bigger. And let's say I want it really big, I can kind of drag it out so it's all on one line. And then I can use this little guy right here to place it. Like, let's say I had an answer blank, I could drag it over. So it's like I just type the answer right in the answer blank. And then what's different about this and a lot of other ways that you can annotate, now your student can like listen a week later to what they said, right? I understand that people are excited to like write on PDFs, but how supportive is it to take the drawing? Yeah, okay, I can write my name on here. I'm an adult and I've been writing my own name for a long time, and that's still pretty janky. I think for a lot of kids, I don't know if other than my name, I don't know if I'd be able to come back to this 2 weeks later and read what I wrote. I certainly can't go in here and really annotate it. I can either just do it, get rid of it and do it over. There's not really a whole lot that I can do. So if I was going to use the drawing tool, I would try and make it more useful for the student. I might ask the student to draw a light blue line where they thought they would find the answer to question number 2. That would be a super supportive way to use that, right? You can draw shapes. And again, don't just have the students like cross out the wrong answer or circle the correct answer. There's not a lot of learning going on there. What if you asked the student to draw a yellow box around a verb so you could check and see that they knew what a verb was? There you go. There's my little yellow box around the verb, right? So think of using these in like a more supportive way. And I just think it's a little bit more meaningful. So we've marked this thing up. You've seen we're looking at like what's good for birds and bad for birds. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my highlights. And this time I'm going to collect them up. And instead of by position, which I could do if it was like, I want to know why the Capulets are angry in yellow and the Montagues are angry in blue, I could do that. Or I could do by color. And I'm going to get that fresh Google Doc and it's going to have all my pros and cons here. Yes, I could use this to like answer a question, but if I wanted to go a little bit deeper and I wanted this kid to really think about it, I'll just do it in the bottom of this document here. Let's say I wanted my student to do, what if I did this? I wanted to really make sure they understood. I could say good for birds, bad for birds. And then here I could say why. So now your student that pulled out that little text that said tidy up. Well, it doesn't say much, right? But maybe they did understand it. If they said tidy up here, and then over here they use the speech input to say, if you don't leave food lying around, you won't have to put out poison and then the birds won't get sick and die. Well, what do you know? They did totally understand what was going on there, right? So you've got a lot of different options. I wanted you guys to see what happens to all of these annotations. So again, if you're in Classroom, you're going to have the share button up there. If you wanted to share a different way, you could use the print button here and save it as a PDF, and then you could save it anywhere you want. You could share it with your mom, you could put it in Google Drive any place you want, you could email it as an attachment. So you can see everything that I did on here showed up except for one thing, that push pin, but everything else you could see. So I just wanted you guys to see what the annotations look like. And then this is where it gets really interesting. So let's say you want to share with a para, or you want to share with a parent or a family member. This little guy right over here is like Google Comments. So let's open this guy up here. I want you to see all the different ways that you can comment. If I were to share this link right here up at the top of the screen with you, if I were to share that with a parent, a tutor, a para, they would be able to see all of these annotations over here, but they'd also be able to see these comments. So maybe here we want to hear this read out loud. This would read that comment out loud so everybody could understand it. And then if we wanted to add a new comment, let me go down here and show you all the different ways that I can comment. I can use word prediction. I can use speech input. I can make it voice note. I can play back what I heard. I can attach an image, or I can attach a document. So let's say this is, like somebody's math assignment and they did it all on paper. They didn't know they had to do it on the computer. They could take a picture of it, add it over there in the comments. So you can see here's my voice note. Here's my picture. So lots that you could do there and have that little conversation going. So any questions about that? It's a lot. If we need to come back to it, we can definitely come back to it. So there was a lot going on there. I want to make sure that you guys have all the support that you need. I've got tons more documents for you in here. If you want to practice, give your students some chance getting more prepared for the SBAC assessments, which thank goodness you guys don't have to do this year. We do in California. This is a really cool way to show how you can scaffold for students. So this was actually middle school SDC scaffolding students into writing a 4-sentence paragraph. If your students benefit from sentence frames, I'll show you how to make those over here. This is something people were kind of asking me for right before the shutdown. And then it just became even more important. Somebody asked me if I could recommend an app that they could buy for graphic organizers. And I don't know who Ven is, but I don't think we need to give him money anymore. I think he's gone. So I just pulled together a bunch of graphic organizers that are available. They're just completely open source. This first page has all the graphic organizers in template form. So if you wanted to do that like 4-sentence paragraph thing, I've got that like right there in a template. I've got the same exact stuff, maybe a Venn diagram or plot diagram or something might be a little bit better in a PDF. These are PDFs that you can make copies of. And I know we're running out of time here, but I wanted to touch on one more thing for you guys. So this has got the instructions here on how to hook up the Google Classroom for you. And then we were talking about Bookshare. This right here, this is your cheat sheet for using Read&Write with Bookshare. So you can use that web toolbar, right, that you saw over here. You can use that on top of Bookshare. But another thing that you should know is that when you go into the Bookshare library, there's always been a drop-down menu, but for a long time, the only thing in it was like HTML and Daisy files for sighted users. They're not good, right? But now when you go into your Bookshare library, one of the options under there is very likely to be an EPUB file. And EPUB files are almost exactly like PDF files. And you can go ahead and download that EPUB file. Here, this shows you how to get to your EPUB file and download that. And then once you have that EPUB file either in Google Classroom or Google Docs, you're going to have that same toolbar there and be able to do all of that cool stuff that you were able to do. If your students are more comfortable, like over on the Bookshare with the web reader, that's great. But I know, Bookshare's a nonprofit, so their web reader has those really old-fashioned robot voices. You can use the text help reader on top, the web reader on top of your Bookshare web reader if you want to. So that is a lot. I wanted to make sure that you knew how to get a hold of. We have great tech support. Please contact them directly. And there's a link down here. There's support there for you. I will. Let's see. We've got somebody just joining here at the tail end. Any questions that you guys have? Any ways you think I can help?
I have a question. What happens
Yeah,
with
you bet.
what happens with the premium? So we got 29 days to use the premium version. Then what happens?
So you guys need to sign up for Free for Teacher access. So you're not going to be using the kids' licenses. Those 150 licenses go to the kids. If you look at our slides here, we've got the link here on slide number 4. This is to download that stuff. And then right here, this is going to take you to a website. You're just going to fill out the form here. Just let us know you're an educator. I know it says teacher, but fill that out, and then you're going to get ongoing access once that 30 days is over.
So okay. So I filled that out already, but
Okay.
when I look at it in a Google Doc, it says 29
It
days.
says 28 days or 29. It's going to tick all the way down to 0. So, Monday it's going to say 27 days, whatever. It'll tick all the way down to 0, and then it'll just keep going. As long as you filled out that form. If you didn't fill out the form, it's going to look like this. You won't see the 28 days, but you're going to see your toolbars mostly grayed out. You're just going to have basically the text to speech is all that's going to be left.
Okay.
But don't worry about that ticker. It'll just tick all the way down, and then it's going to disappear.
Okay.
Awesome. Anything else? So I've got my homework, which is I'm going to make sure that your IT knows the kids need to be able to download that glorious PDF reader. I am also going to look, I think I've got a keystroke document that I can share with you guys for kids that need to use keystrokes. Trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it, unless you guys have other questions for me.
My question is just for continuous support, would we just ask Chellce or Rachel, or would we contact you directly? I know as we start to implement this more for students, more professionals are going to need the
more
training.
Questions will come up, yeah.
And more questions will come up.
So we're recording this, so you'll have this. And you definitely want to make that connection with your local person. If you have questions like Lisa, you were saying, oh my gosh, what if my trial runs out? If you have questions about the software working, I would say contact our tech support, because they're just sitting there waiting for people to contact them all day. I'm in webinars all day. They should be able to help you. And if you got a really tricky situation, they can even view in and see what's on your computer if you want to. So I would call them if there's any questions about I can't make this work. Definitely you want to work with your local team on just the basic stuff. And just so you guys know, we have a really rigorous YouTube channel that's got all kinds of if you just want to know how to do just word prediction, there's a 3-minute video on just word prediction. I shared some documents with Rachel and Chellce that they're going to be able to share with you and the families as needed. But also be aware, we do have a free training portal. It's getting a revamp right now, so it's probably going to be a few weeks before it's available again. But you're going to be able to go on and take self-paced online modules.
Oh,
so
okay.
if you were oh, that PDF thing went by really fast, you're going to be able to go onto our portal and you're going to be able to take a self-paced online little PDF quiz. So you can do a whole hour on PDFs if you want to.
Perfect. Yeah, that's my kind of question, especially once kids go back in the fall, because they'll have new teachers. And so making sure that their new team is then trained in on the software, just what that looks like.
Totally. So there's definitely lots of ongoing self-service as well. And when the new school year comes, if it turns out that your kids are getting all kinds of worksheets and you can't figure out how to get it into Classroom, you can't figure out how to get it into Google Drive, I'm more than happy to offer you guys what I'm calling a scanning party. So you bring in the documents that are giving you trouble. We can use Read&Write Windows or Read&Write Mac. I can show you guys how to use Snapburger, which is not included, but there's a big chunk of it you can use for free. So how can we take like a picture of a worksheet and get that sucker like into Google Drive so the kids can like interact with it completely? If you guys need an hour-long scanning party, we're just going to have you bring stuff and we can do a hackathon.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for spending so much of your afternoon with me. Sounds like you guys are in really good shape, and I know you've got some folks that have been doing this for a while, so I think you got a good start. So, all right, thanks everybody.
Thank you, Nora. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Who's still on?
I invited Anna to be from the AT team.
Yeah. And
that was really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and Anna, what are your thoughts? Because I feel like there's so much that can be done from the speech perspective. Just the collaboration I've done with Caitlin has been really exciting, just for the kids to like hear themselves and then like for it to dictate correctly or not correctly.
No, I think that'd be really cool. And then like at this time I don't see a ton of use for my preschoolers, but when I was at the elementary, like there was a ton that I could see this expanding towards language wise. And
yeah, and the nice thing is like most of this, has been like, as OTs, we've been pushing it for writing. And a lot of kids who have OT have speech. So it's like they already got the license. Like it's a nice tool to just like incorporate into sessions. I'm really excited about voice notes because we were just doing that like a couple days ago where she's like commenting like, put your lips together and like practice, while I was in a session with him and she was like commenting on the Google Doc. And so I'm like, now we can just record him doing it and then they can practice it so it's more accurate for the dictation. So
they're all aligned. Very cool.
Yay. And then, I guess we have Anna and Chellce. I need to send out an email for AT committee just to like practice. We need to set up the PowerPoint still. I didn't do that either, where we were going to do our little like, we need an AT person. So here's the verbal reminder.
I finished up your AT thing, so I will send it when we're done.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a typical OT meeting, but anyone have any other questions or OT thoughts? Thanks, Anna.
So we sign kids up by the same way we used to sign up co-writer, right? There's a list.
Similar, yeah. I don't think there's a Google Doc that we have access to, but you still just email Chellce with the student's name and email address. And it was awesome. So the ones that had the free 30-day trial, I didn't have to do anything extra. Like I didn't have to re-download anything. It just automatically worked once Chellce put their name in the system. So that was nice. And I have to say, one of the things I really like about Read&Write is co-writer would just like randomly not be on their Chrome extensions like every 2 weeks. And Read&Write has never had that happen yet. So that's been awesome. Like, yeah.
Do you recommend doing the 30-day trial over just getting a kid a license?
It depends if they have co-writer already, has kind of been my thought. Like if they already have co-writer and they're using it and like might be successful still with co-writer, then I do the 30-day trial to see if they like it better. Or if you're deciding if the student even needs that robust of a program, which if they're on OT, they probably do. But like some kids can just use the universal design features where, they have built-in microphones. So it's like, can they get by with just the universal features, or do they need that robust support with like all the executive functioning pieces too? Yeah. So the 30-day trial just lets you take data on it.
I find that with co-writer, a lot of times they're just bypassing co-writer and using the microphone because there's just a lot of steps with co-writer.
Yeah, I love this program. It just honestly, I mean, I loved co-writer when we had it, but like it just doesn't compare to Read&Write and all the additional things you can do. And it syncs between all the different programs. Like it's the same icons. It's all at the top. Like it's just so much easier to generalize. I just really like it.
I love the picture dictionary so much.
I know. Yeah, the kids love it too.
Well, because they look at that list and they have no idea still if it's a word, it's not a very simple word.
Yeah. it just helps a lot.
Yeah. Good.
I'm really excited about the PDF one. I haven't used PDF with any of my students yet because I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things is all of my kids are using Google Slides for their assignments, but they can't use Google Slides and put it in the text. And so she's like, well, just turn it to a PDF. And I'm like, this is genius. So just, yeah, I'm going to start downloading their Google Slide assignments and teaching parents and the student to just save as PDF. And then they can actually do their assignments on the PDF slide so it looks the same as everyone else's. I think that'll be way better because the Google Docs, it's like I have to type all of the questions into the Google Doc and then for them to use it. So it's just not as functional or independent for them.
Right. And you can't be there all the time.
Yeah. It's like I'm just see them once a week. Like this will be way better and take a lot of the work off of the parents who have been translating the Google Slides questions and work into a Google Doc for them when it's outside of our session times. So for them to just learn how to like just download as a PDF, then the student's going to be able to do it independently. So that's really exciting. And I'm just really excited. I have like goosebumps. I'm like writing down all these things I'm going to do. Oh, goodness. Yay.
Any good plans for the weekend?
Paddleboarding, probably. Hiking. It's so nice out. What about you guys?
I'm taking the kids up to Rosengard
Where's that?
in Skagit for the Tulip Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Well, that'll be good. I'm just looking for ideas. I don't have anything.
I mean, anything outside. It's beautiful, 70.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I have to find my sunglasses.
Yeah.
How's your
Also
daughter doing?
rollerblading, which has been exciting. They have the Centennial Trail. It's really easy to rollerblade on that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, where is that?
It's like connects, what is it, Snohomish to like north of Arlington.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a bike trail mostly, right?
Yep. Yeah, most people bike. There's also horses on it too, which I think is fun. What about you, Jessica?
Let's see. We're tearing out some raised beds that the wood is like disintegrating on because our retaining wall goes right by it and it's failing. So we need to tear that out so that we hired somebody to come and put a boulder retaining wall in, and our pathway is sinking into the ground. So we got to tear that up as well, amongst other gardening chores and things like that, and hanging out with the kids.
A weekend to do it and be outside.
Exactly. No, it'll work good because the kids will play and enjoy the running around and whatnot. So
Perfect.
yeah. So
How's your daughter's tooth? Is she still?
yeah. So she got some medications last night, and she started the antibiotics. So they said as soon as the infection kind of goes down, that she'll have a lot less pain. So my daughter was playing with my other daughter, and her front tooth cracked. And you could see the nerve, but she wasn't having pain at that time. So it was about a month and a half ago. But she came home a couple days ago in a lot of pain, and she kept telling me she's only 7, so she's like, it hurts all the time. I'm like, no, you are definitely like, this is an acute situation. And she woke up a couple times crying that night, and I tried to brush her teeth, but I just gently touched it, and she just immediately tears. So I called the dentist yesterday morning, and I said, you got to get us in to see what's going on. And so we went to the first dentist, and she's like, okay, that's the pediatric dentist. She's like, okay, I think she's going to need a root canal. And we can't do that. So here's like 5 referrals, get her on antibiotics and get in as soon as you can. So then I went to another girl who doesn't do peds, and she's like, well, your daughter needs sedation. Like, she's not going to be able to handle this root canal because she's going to see the needles. And I'm like, I don't even know. I've never had a root canal before. Okay. It's like, well, we can't do that. So you got to call somebody else and go somewhere else. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Poor girl. But she eventually, I got the antibiotics, we got the medication, and she finally was able to calm down and tell me she was teeter-tottering with her friend, and she slipped off and she hit the tooth.
Oh, that's why.
That's why there was so much acute pain, and that makes sense. But her whole, her lip was swollen, and the tooth and the gum behind it, but she's got that broken tooth. I mean, it's broken in half, so you can see the point where the nerve is down there. And they told me, well, it's not fully developed yet, so it could possibly develop to the point where it's an open situation. And so they assumed that that was what was going on. So we have an emergency appointment on Wednesday to see another guy who could possibly do the root canal. Long story short, guys.
Poor girl.
Yes.
Is the worst.
It is. It's true. Oh, it just got nerve pain. It's the worst. Yeah, it's awful.
I think I told you this, Jess. My kiddo got pushed off of a picnic bench by a kid that was being mean to him, and it shoved 3 of his teeth up with his gums. And so now he lost naturally, but the other 2 got infected, and so they had to pull them. So he's missing like his 3 teeth.
Are they their baby teeth?
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah. Did they have to sedate him to pull those, or
They didn't. We go to the Puget Sound Pediatric Dentistry, and they were amazing. They're like, okay, Liam, like, I'm going to put ice on your teeth. And so like the little bit of pain while they were getting the numbing stuff in, like he was fine.
That's awesome.
I like you guys, but I have an IEP meeting, but it was great seeing you guys, and I'll talk to you. Have a great weekend.
Oh, you too. Bye-bye.
That was brilliant that they did that. I mean, with the ice. Because it's
must
how you find it, right? Needle sounds scary.
Oh yeah. And they were like, came from below, and he was like watching the video on the ceiling. So like he didn't even see any of it. And like I tried watching it, and then I couldn't. When they started like peeling the gums away, I was like,
so you're back there while it's happening.
Yeah.
We had a horror show in Florida when I lived there. A number of our kids were going to this pediatric dentist, and they wouldn't allow the parents in the back. And one of the moms so one of our nonverbal kids who was autistic was back getting work done, and the mom heard him screaming, and she just stormed back there and found him in restraints. They had him strapped down so he couldn't move a bit of his body while they worked on him, which sent him over the edge. And she helped them land on the news. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so scary.
It is so scary. But, I like to hear the parents can go back in ever since that.
Yeah. I was sitting there and I was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to like not look.
I just maybe stand behind.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to watch. I told my husband when I had my daughter, I had a C-section, and I'm like, well, don't come in. It's disgusting. He's like, well, I want to see. And he sits on the surgery side of the curtain. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're crazy. Didn't bother him a bit. I could never.
Lisa, I had all 4 cesarean sections. On my last one, I was like, come on, just put the gown down, because I've done cadavers. Like I helped assist cutting those. I just want to see what's going on. And they're like, no, you don't want to see this. My last chance.
I watched it because there was a plastic light, and I could see the light. I mean, it's a little removed that way.
You're right.
But then it just seemed like someone else, because I didn't have any pain, and then so that was okay. But I think just to see I don't think I'd want to watch surgery on my kids or husband.
Yeah, that's true. That's hard.
I wouldn't. Yeah, but his father's a surgeon, so he grew up with it.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness it's the weekend.
Yeah. And to go mow the lawn.
Mow the lawn.
At least it's not raining.
Exactly.
All right. Well, you guys have fun. I hope all the dental stuff is okay with everybody.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Good. All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.